Emmerdale fans can look forward to some intriguing fresh dynamics tonight, as the battle for Butler's farm rages on. Joe and Kim Tate are still determined to get their hands on Moira Dingle's business, which is looking more vulnerable than ever now that she's in prison. But where do Graham Foster's loyalties lie? Meanwhile, Beowulf finds someone new to confide in after his recent ordeal. Joe warns Kim that the days of playing nice with the Dingles are now over, as he can't forgive Cain for stealing his car. This concerns Kim, who'd previously warned him to go easy on Moira until the Celia situation is resolved. Kim now wants to deal with the Cain drama herself, but Graham is adamant that he's the best person for the job. With the home farm schemers bickering between themselves, the battle for Joe's approval is on. When Graham plays detective by snooping around Butler's farm, he discovers that Joe's theory was correct, and Cain really did steal the car. However, Graham is distracted when he also stumbles across one of Cain's medical letters in a drawer. How will he react to the news of Cain's cancer diagnosis? Cain has Sarah, Mac, Ross, Lewis and Matty all helping him out in various ways while Moira isn't around, from keeping the farm afloat to keeping an eye on the kids. Despite this, Cain takes his frustrations out on those closest to him as he's plagued by fears over his diagnosis. As the only person who knows what's really going on, Sarah tries to warn Cain that it's not a good idea to keep treating everyone like this. But will he listen? Although he has the leverage he needs to cause major trouble for Cain, unpredictable Graham takes a surprising approach by covering for him. Graham lies to Joe about who took the car, hoping to save Cain from the sly businessman's wrath. But with Kim already determined to outmaneuver him, is it really a good idea for Graham to lie? Following the good news that Evan's leukemia treatment has worked, Dawn is looking to the future. Amid a touching moment with Kim, loved-up Dawn shares her plans to have a baby with Joe. Ross is frustrated as Lewis and Vinny still seem reluctant to act on the chemistry between them. He hatches a plan to bring the housemates closer, but will his hapless efforts pay off? When Bear takes a walk, Erin spots him and makes sure that he gets home safely, determined to make sure that Paddy's dad doesn't go AWOL again. As they talk, Erin encourages Bear to open up and reflects on his own experiences of abuse. Could this be the honest conversation that Bear needed? The mist rolled over the Yorkshire Dales like a grey blanket, hiding secrets that could change lives forever. At Butler's farm, the Dingle clan had never known peace, but tonight felt different. There was an edge in the air, a tension that refused to dissipate. Cain Dingle paced the farmhouse kitchen, the weight of his worries pressing down on him more heavily than the chill in the room. Moira was behind bars, framed for a crime she didn't commit, and her absence left a vacuum Cain had no idea how to fill. He had managed to keep the farm running with the help of his family, but the cracks were beginning to show. Outside the farmhouse, the distant hum of engines was a reminder that Joe Tate and Kim Tate were closing in. Their eyes were firmly set on Butler's farm, and with Moira unable to intervene, the business was more vulnerable than ever. Joe and Kim's strategy. At home farm, Joe Tate was pacing in his office, tapping a finger against his desk with a controlled impatience. He had warned Kim that Cain had crossed a line, stealing his DeLorean, and forgiveness wasn't on the table. Kim, ever the strategist, tilted her head, her sharp eyes narrowing. Joe, you can't rush into this. Let me handle Cain. Until Celia's situation is resolved, we need to be careful. But Joe wasn't listening. His mind was set. No more playing nice, he said firmly. Cain's actions have consequences. He's not untouchable. Kim frowned. There was a part of her that respected Joe's determination, but also worried that his impulsiveness could undo everything. Fine, she muttered. But this Cain problem will need precision. Don't underestimate him. Meanwhile, in the background, Graham Foster watched silently. His loyalty had always been a mix of principle and pragmatism, and right now, he was caught in the middle. Who should he serve? Joe, the ambitious schemer, or Cain, a man struggling against enemies both inside and outside his own family? Graham's discovery. That evening, Graham crept through the quiet halls of Butler's farm. His eyes darted from room to room, searching for proof of Cain's misdeeds. The theory Joe had whispered earlier was correct. Cain had indeed stolen the DeLorean. Graham allowed himself a small, satisfied smirk. But then, something unexpected caught his attention. In a drawer, partially tucked under a pile of old paperwork, was a medical letter addressed to Cain. He picked it up carefully, scanning the contents. Prostate cancer. Aggressive but localized. The words hit Graham harder than the theft had. He felt the tension in the room shift, the weight of Cain's hidden battle settling on his shoulders. The farm at work. Despite everything, life at Butler's farm didn't stop. Cain had Sarah, Mac, Ross, Lewis, and Matty rallying around him. A motley crew keeping the machinery running, tending to the fields, and keeping an eye on the younger generation. Yet Cain's frustration began to boil over. The fear gnawing at him made him lash out at those closest to him, taking out his anxiety on the very people trying to help. Sarah, his steadfast granddaughter, noticed it immediately. "Cain, you can't keep pushing everyone away," she said gently. "You've got people who care about you. You don't have to carry this alone." Cain shook his head, gritting his teeth. "I've handled worse. Don't tell me what I can and can't do." It was a familiar refrain in the Dingle household. Tough love, pride, and stubbornness all rolled into one. But Sarah's words lingered in his mind. Graham's unpredictable move. Graham's discovery of Cain's medical letter forced him to make a choice. He could deliver the news to Joe and let Cain face the full force of Home Farm's wrath, or he could act differently. In an uncharacteristic move, Graham chose the latter. He approached Joe later that night and confidently denied Cain's involvement in the car theft. Joe, already impatient, squinted in disbelief. "Graham, you sure about that?" Joe asked. "Positive," Graham replied, his voice steady. "You won't find a shred of evidence linking Cain to the DeLorean." Joe's brow furrowed. Something about Graham's certainty unsettled him, but he had no proof to contradict him. For now, the situation was defused, but only temporarily. Dawn and new beginnings. Away from the tense negotiations and secret alliances, the village had its moments of light. Dawn Taylor received excellent news about Evan's leukemia treatment. The relief was palpable, and she couldn't help but look to the future with hope. In a touching conversation with Kim, Dawn confided her plans. "I want a baby," she admitted, eyes sparkling. "A family of our own, now that Evan's doing better." Kim smiled, a rare softness in her usual calculating demeanor. "Then you'll get it. You've earned some happiness, Dawn." Meanwhile, back at the farmhouse, Ross was growing increasingly frustrated. Lewis and Vinny, his housemates, seemed oblivious to the sparks between them. Determined to push them together, Ross devised a plan, small and clumsy, but sincere. Could his meddling finally bring the duo together? Bear finds a friend. As night fell, Bear Wolf wandered the village, lost in his own thoughts. The trauma from the past weeks weighed heavily on him. But fate intervened. Cain Dingle spotted him, and made sure he returned home safely. Their conversation was raw and honest. Cain shared his own experiences with abuse, encouraging Bear to open up. For the first time, Bear allowed himself to speak freely, voicing fears and frustrations he had buried deep inside. It was a small but significant turning point. Bear realized that confiding in someone, even for a man used to standing alone, could bring comfort. Fractures and alliances. Back at Butler's farm, tensions continued to simmer. Cain's interactions with Sarah and the others revealed a man torn between pride and vulnerability. He wanted to protect everyone, but the fear of losing control, and the knowledge of his illness, made him volatile. Graham, meanwhile, walked a fine line. His decision to lie to Joe had bought Cain time, but Kim's sharp eyes were always watching. Any slip-up could undo his careful diplomacy, and suddenly, Butler's farm became a minefield of suspicion, loyalty, and secrets. The Tates were circling, waiting for any sign of weakness. Cain was hiding more than just his illness. He was hiding a lifetime of pride and the burning desire to keep his family together. The calm before the storm. As the night deepened, the village settled into an uneasy calm. Fields glistened under the moonlight, and the farmhouse hummed with quiet activity. But everyone knew the storm was coming. Joe and Kim would push harder. Graham would be forced to make impossible choices. Cain would have to confront not just the Tates, but the disease threatening him from within. And Bear? Well, Bear was learning that trust might be worth the risk. In the heart of the Dales, battles were being fought on multiple fronts, some visible, some hidden. And as the first rays of dawn crept across the hills, it was clear that tonight was only the beginning. The battle for Butler's farm, and the survival of the Dingle family, was far from over.